Okay, let's hope that everything goes the way it is supposed to go. ah. Hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time joining, welcome. If it's not your first time, welcome back. My name is Ruth and I am a Nigerian student studying and working in Germany. I work part-time actually in Germany. I make content about my life here, what it's like, the highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, and just everything in between. I love to share my experiences, and I do that through vlogs and videos where I sit down like this one and I talk to you guys. If that's the kind of content you're interested in, or you think you would find it helpful, or know someone who might find it helpful, then please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and also subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. And yeah, click the notification bell as well so you would be notified whenever I post a new video. Also, just to add this in, we recently got to 1,000 subscribers, and that's such a big deal to me. I'm really grateful to everybody who took the time to subscribe and people who have been engaging with my content. For people who I've not responded to their comments yet, I'm sorry, I saw the comments quite late and now I feel awkward. You know how when someone calls you and then you don't call back for a week and then you feel very awkward calling back? That's exactly how I feel. So please let me know if you want me to still respond, and if it's not too late I can respond, because I've seen the comments. Sometimes the comments go to in review and I don't open the review section all the time, but I've learned my lesson and I will be doing that now. So yeah, thank you guys so much for engaging with my content. In today's video I'm going to be sharing something that has been very much requested by a bunch of you guys, and I've been feeling very self-conscious about sharing it because I'm in no way an expert, and to be honest, everything that has happened to me since moving to Germany, especially as regards to my career and job search, it's been good, and honestly I cannot take any credit for any of it. I would say that I did do some things, but honestly, who hasn't done things, right? So yeah, before I proceed with this video, I just want to say that I am by no means an expert in any of what I'm about to share. I'm majorly just sharing from my own personal experiences and things that I did that helped me. We did have an expert come into my class a couple of weeks ago actually now, and she spoke a lot about applying to German jobs and internships as a student, and what you should do in your, what you should add in your CV, what you shouldn't have in your CV, and all of that. So I would also be sharing some of her tips. That is expert opinion from her, but for me I would also be sharing some of my experiences as well, like some of the things I believe I did right and some things that, well, it could be better, right? So if you think you'll find this video helpful, essentially I'm going to be sharing tips on making your job applications in Germany for work student jobs and internships from my personal experience. So if you think you need this video, then please keep watching. If not, you can just you can just leave, because that's the only thing we'll be talking about. Yeah, so if you notice me looking down, I'm most likely looking at my tab. As I said, we had an expert come into class a couple of days ago and she shared a whole PowerPoint presentation. It was a 2-hour class, guys, on applying to jobs in Germany. And a little bit about myself before I start, and maybe you're wondering what gives me the right to actually sit here and talk about these things. I don't know, nothing gives me the right, but I do want to say that I moved to Germany almost 2 years ago now, and since moving to Germany I've had 2 working student positions and also been able to get a couple of internships, which I didn't take because I have a working student position. And if you ask me why I applied, I can't give you an answer. To be honest, it feels like I've just been, you know, every once in a while I like to test out my CV, if that makes sense, to see if it's still working. That's so bad of me. I probably will scrap that out of this video, but yeah. So yeah, I've been able to get a couple of internships and lots of responses back. So it means that my CV is probably working for me, right? So I must be doing something right. So before we get into this, there are some things that I just want to say that I think would be noteworthy. The first thing is that getting a job in Germany is not a piece of cake. It's not the most easy thing to do, because most times most of the companies in Germany would require that you have either some kind of working experience as well as proficiency in German language, because after all you would have to interact with people, right? So especially when you work in fields that are not technical, like you work in maybe medicine or customer services and stuff where you'd have to interact with Germans or German natives, so they would require that you know how to speak the German language. Another thing is that if the job ad is in German and you know how to speak the German language and you would like to apply, please send your CV in German. Do not send it in English. But if the job is in English, so the description is in English on LinkedIn or wherever it is you're applying from, then you can send your application in English. Another thing is you don't have to fulfill all of the job requirements. Most people get intimidated when they see like this whole bunch of stuff. You don't have to fulfill all of the job requirements. What you need to do actually is take note of some of the requirements, and if it's something that you can easily learn, you can include it as part of your skill set. And if you get called for an interview, you can quickly learn it in like 1 or 2 weeks, to be honest. I have a couple of things I've learned just for the sake of that I applied and I said, oh yeah, I know how to do this, because I mean, things like Jira, for instance, it doesn't take you long to learn. It just looks big, like it looks like it's something that will take you a while to learn. But if you actually want to learn Jira, for instance, can learn it in 2 hours or 3 hours, at least you would know basics of Jira. So what I'm trying to say is you don't have to fulfill all of the requirements. You can just fake it. That, okay, yeah, I know how to use this software. When you get called for an interview, trust me, you will learn it. You will learn it really quickly. So do not be intimidated by the size of the company. In Germany, there are lots of companies like Google, Adidas, Puma, and all of those companies. Most times people get intimidated and then they don't get a lot of applicants because a lot of people see those companies and they're like, I can never get in here, so I'm probably not going to apply. Chances are you then apply and then you're 1 out of 60 people who applied for that position and you just get in because people don't apply because they're intimidated. So don't be scared if you find a company that you like, but then you feel like, oh my God, I can't get in. Don't let I think that's something that most international students face, where they allow self-doubt and imposter syndrome kind of creep in. So just apply anyways. Another thing is to attend networking events. Most schools have those events, and also you can join clubs and communities. Also, if you are moving to Germany for your bachelor's and you do not have experiences, I would say, like, you don't have a lot of working experience, the best thing to do is to join a community or a club where they do a lot of external related programs, and then you can add those things as experiences. Also, try to participate as much as you can in class projects, because if you're applying to an internship, honestly, those companies know you do not have those experiences. So what they expect to see is your class projects that you've worked on that you're really proud of. And then you can also, if for instance you're interested in a project management role, for instance, whenever you do have a class project, try to utilize all of those project management tools like Jira, Confluence, Asana. Try to utilize those tools so that way you have a couple of things in your toolbox, and when you are applying to those job roles, you can say, okay, yeah, I led a team of 5 people. Nobody cares where the team is or who the team is, but you led a team of 5 people. You were able to apply some of those project management principles, and yeah, those kind of things actually help a lot, especially when you do not have a lot of experience. Because trust me, those companies are aware, especially when it's an internship position. One of the basic principles for formulating your CV is, number 1, you want to keep it 1 to 2 pages long. Don't make it longer than that, because honestly, nobody has time to read all of that. Okay, now I sound like an HR professional. I promise you I'm not. The second thing is to keep your CV concise and well structured. By well structured, I mean you always want to include the tasks you've done, especially if you have working experience and you did a couple of tasks for your company, maybe back at home or wherever. You want to structure it in a way that people know that you actually did something that was valuable. So you would say, I did this for this company, and we did this, and we're able to achieve what and what and what and what and what. More important than what you did is the value what you did was able to create for the company or the person you worked for. So for instance, I can say I worked on maybe a website redesign for company XYZ, and we were able to increase maybe number of engagements by 80%. So those are like quantifiable figures. If Hi guys, editing Ruth here. I just want to quickly say that sometimes it's never really easy to quantify the value of your work, especially when you work for certain companies or in certain field. So I think the best thing here is probably just impute the impact of your work. It doesn't always have to be full on figures. If it's figures, that's great. But if it's not, if you don't have the appropriate figures, then you could just talk about the impact of your work. So it could be reduce the number of working hours or increase productivity or whatever. It's all about the impact. But basically, try to figure out how your work has impacted or what positive impact or value your work has, and then use that. Don't talk like you don't necessarily always like you don't. It's not about the work you did. Maybe keep that in mind. That it's not about the work you did. It's more about the impact of the work you've done and the value that was created from it. Another thing is to go anti-chronologically. So you start from where you currently are and then move back from there. So for instance, for me, I'm currently working at an energy company in Germany. So that would come first in my work experience. And then the next company I worked with was for a consultancy firm in Germany, and that will come next. Same with your education. I'm currently doing a master's in design leadership. That would come first, and then my master's in management at TUM would come next, and then my bachelor's degree in architecture then would come next. So you go anti-chronologically rather than chronologically. Another thing is to use keywords. So this goes back to what I was saying about your CV being a growing dynamic document. So for instance, if you want to apply to a job role on LinkedIn, for instance, you applied for maybe a project management role, and then you see all of these requirements for that they need for an intern in that particular role. So you are supposed to edit your CV to fit the job role and include all of the keywords that was written on the CV, because some of the companies usually have thousands of applicants, so they use a system that filters out based on keywords. And you also want to make sure that you have those keywords in your CV so your CV passes that preliminary test, because those softwares that check the CV, so the software that does the first initial check, they're usually never subjective. They're always very objective, and they look out for the keywords. If your CV do not contain those keywords, they kind of scrap you out, and you don't move to the next round where a human who is actually subjective gets to look at your CV. So you should take note of the keywords. I would probably I have this LinkedIn plugin that I always use. So I insert my CV and then it checks it whenever I see a job, and it tells me whether or not I'm a good fit for that role. So it gives me like a percentage score. Oh yeah, 50% qualified for this role. And then it also gives me a couple of keywords to include in my CV to raise my qualification score. So another thing about German CVs is at the bottom of the CV, you're supposed to include the place, the date, as well as your signature at the bottom of the CV. Finally, you should note that the goal of the CV is to showcase your professional and personal competence. And usually for German CVs, they have like an image section at the top where you insert a professional image of yourself. Make sure it's in a bright place. Make sure the color is great. You use toned down colors, and then you have like an open facial expression, so you smile, the kind of smile that actually hits your eyes. And yeah, include a picture of yourself on the CV. It's not very common in a lot of places around the world, but in Germany I think it's something that would make your CV stand out. A lot of people don't know this, but you should include a picture of yourself. For your job application photo, you can actually spend some money. If you're not yet in Germany, maybe you're in Nigeria or something, you should spend maybe a couple bucks. I wish I did this before moving, because honestly I don't know about professional pictures here in Germany. I don't know who to meet to take it for me, but if I knew, I would have done it from home, where I went to a professional studio and had it done, maybe for like 50k or less. I don't know, I don't want to sound out of touch, but definitely way less than I would do it here. And photographers know how to adjust lighting for our skin tone. So the next thing is how to organize your CV. The first thing you want to have at the top of your CV is your personal details as well as your contact information. So you would include your name, your address, your telephone number, your email, address as well, and also a link to your portfolio. If you have one, you could just put it at the top. Do not include your birth dates, that's not mandatory. You don't have to include whether or not you're male or female, that's also not mandatory. The next thing you want to include as a student is your educational background. So that comes next after your contact details. So for your educational background, you want to include the start and end date of your studies, so not the particular date but the month and the year. And then you also want to include the name of the program, the name of the university, as well as relevant subject or courses you took. The next thing is practical experience or work experience. That comes after your academic experience. So what you want to include is the time specification. Again, in an anti-chronological order, you include the time specification where you have the month and the year you started and the month and the year you ended. Another thing you want to include is the name and location of the company you worked with. Make sure you have a standard for doing this. It's very important because in Germany, usually the companies are GmbH or AG companies. So you want to include, you want to have a standard way of writing this company's name and make sure that you get it right, as well as the location of the company. Next, you want to include the position or the department you worked in or under. That's very important. And then finally you have to include relevant focus or activities or achievements you did during your work experience. So projects you worked on that you feel like are very relevant to the current job role you're applying to. Also, do not forget your transferable skills. Very important. People sometimes just feel like it's all about the hard stuff. So I know how to use Asana, I know how to use Jira, I know how to use SketchUp and Figma and all of those things. Those are good, all well and good, but you could also include soft skills and things that you did outside of work as well that had an impact in the company along with the value that you were able to create. So if you organized a program for 10 people and you planned and all of those things, you can include those things there as part of some of the things you did. Organization skills is a soft skill that honestly not most people have, and if you've done a project that has that applicable, it's good even if you were an architect, for instance, and you did something like that, but then now you're applying to a project management role, but during your time as an architect you were able to organize maybe site meetings. You can actually add that because organization is a big part of project management. So I'm just like saying that some of the skills you get from a previous job role are called transferable skills because you can use them in new job roles and applying for new job roles. Another thing you want to add to your CV, if you have them, are academic projects. So in my case, I've been very much involved. Every semester we have a bunch of projects. So this semester alone, we've done at least 5 projects. More than 5 projects actually, counting other courses. So, and these projects usually we work with actual clients in real life scenario where we design and come up with really innovative design, and we use design thinking methodologies from beginning to end, and at the end of the day we actually create an actual product. So it's been very interesting and very fun for me, and those kind of things, using myself as an example, I can add that to my CV because I'm a designer and I'm a design student. So I can add that as an academic project to my CV because I actually have real clients and I worked on those projects in different positions. So I don't want to dive too deep into that, but for your academic project, you should add the date, so the start date of the project, usually at the beginning of the semester, and the end date of the project. Then next, you want to add the name of the project as well as the location, and also you can include the procedure, the results, the methodologies that you used to get your final result as well. You can add that. Part of academic projects is also your thesis. So some people don't realize, but sometimes your thesis are applicable to the companies that you want to apply to. Some of those companies would find it very interesting that you did research in a particular field of their interest. So you can include your thesis as well from both your bachelor's or your master's. So the next thing you want to add in your CV after your academic project, if you have one, is your skill set. So you want to include your IT skills. What software and programs do you know how to use? You want to include soft skills, like I said, collaboration, organization, and all the other soft skills. You want to include that in your CV. You also want to include your language skill as well. In Germany, language is, like I said, top priority. So if you know how to speak the German language, please put it above English. That would really help you. So German, then English. That would be really good. So include all of those things. Very helpful. If you have them, you can include certifications that you've gotten from training. I am currently taking trainings and courses in Coursera and some online as well, just other platforms that are free. Germany has a lot of resources. For instance, if you are interested, you can apply for the Ready program, which is the Ready School of Digital Integration, where you can learn digital skills like UI UX design, front-end design, software development, and a bunch of other digital skills. Another platform you could learn from is the DPS, Digital Product School, where you get paid €1,000 for learning, basically. So they pay you €1,000 for 3 months. So €1,000 per month for 3 months. It's an internship, but the money they pay you is a scholarship, so you don't pay tax from that, and it doesn't count as payment. So that's also a very good place to get extra certificate if you're interested. Next, below the skills are special experiences. So if you've had experiences abroad or you have voluntary activities you've done, maybe you volunteered in a field of interest. It doesn't even necessarily have to be to the job role you're applying to. It can be outside of the scope of your job role, because most organizations are looking to employ a holistic individual. It's not just about your skill set, or it's also about your personality, what you're interested in outside of work, and you can include that. It doesn't have to be related to the job role you're applying to, so you can include all of those things: scholarship, other voluntary commitments you have, abroad programs you've attended, and some of those other things. And then finally, you want to include what you have interest in, so your hobbies, what you like to do outside during your spare time. Like I said, German companies are kind of interested in things that you do outside of work. So relevant things you do outside of work, you can include that in your CV as well. So that about wraps up what you should include in your resume and on your CV. Most times when you apply to larger, bigger organizations, they use a software to do the first round of scanning before a human being looks through the remaining CV. So the software would be checking out for grammatical errors, because it's not subjective, it's very objective. Once it sees a grammatical error, it reads it as an error, and then your application will be scrapped out. So be careful not to make any grammatical error, because if it's a human being that's looking at the CV, they can just think, this person probably meant this thing, as opposed to but if it's a software or a machine, they just scrap it. They don't it wouldn't try to figure out what you meant, if that makes any sense. So make sure that the structure of your CV is clear. So like I said, just the way I listed it before, start with your personal details, and then you end with your hobbies. So keep the structure clear and open. Sometimes when you use CVs, like those CV builders on Canva, some of those softwares can't read those things, like they can't read those CV builder things. So try to use Word documents to create your CV, and then make sure that the structure of those documents are very clear. Like I said earlier, avoid grammatical errors. Another thing, I hope I'm not forgetting this, I thought about it just now and then. Yes, so make sure you use clear format for your dates and keep that format consistent. So if you are going with month and year, go with month and year, and then keep instead of, some people do like 2024 and then some people do 24. So instead of if you're going to go with 2024, preferably go with 2024, then keep that consistent. So 2024, 2023, 2019, keep that format consistent. To use graphics, because a lot of people use this bar thing where, like, for instance, proficiency in PowerPoint, and then they use this bar thing to show where they are. Don't do that. The software can't read. The CV parser, I think that's what it's called, can't read that. So use words to describe your experience. So PowerPoint expert as opposed to that line thing or those graphic thing. Don't do that, especially when you're applying to big organizations where you know that they would use a CV reader first before looking through your CV, before a human being looks through your CV. So when you are describing your language proficiency skill, for instance, don't use things like A2 or A1. The computer sometimes does not understand that, as far as she explained to us, like the expert explained to us. The computer does not understand that. So rather than having A1 proficiency in German, use words like beginner level or fluent or native speaker or business fluent. Those kind of words, the computer would be able to read it. That's it, I think, for the CV. I probably should do a part 2 where I will talk about the cover letter, but honestly, my mouth is paining me, and and yeah, I tried as much as possible to keep this brief and concise. So I think that's going to be all for this video. If you've enjoyed the video or you like my face, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and also click the like button and comment, engage. If you have further tips for people, especially if you've been in Germany for a long time or you've been working in Germany for a while and you have more tips for people, please leave it in the comment section. It's very nice and very kind of you if you do. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I would see you in my next one. Ciao.